Hello, fellow creators. Welcome back to a space where your creative spirit takes center stage. Today, we're diving into the heart of imagination, emphasizing a simple truth. Everyone, including you and your students, holds untapped creative potential. In this episode, we'll explore the captivating worlds of makerspaces, share the electrifying vibes from the Adobe MAX conference, demystify the wonders of artificial intelligence and computational thinking, and figure out where the mystical S came from. You know, the S. So whether you're a seasoned artist or someone discovering your creative spark, join us as we celebrate the vast creative potential within each of us. Get ready for an adventure into the extraordinary. Hello, friEd fans. Here we are, episode 3. It's like a trilogy now, right? Like all the best movies are in trilogy format. So we can end it at episode 3.
But usually people don't like the third one, so great.
Not in this case.
Hey,
it's better than the original.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like John Wick 3 is pretty good. I enjoyed John Wick 3 and Lord of the Rings, the third one. But anyways, what is our topic for episode 3? It's like a smorgasbord of everything.
Yeah, our topic's it's a little bit computer science, a little bit creative thinking and design thinking, because really they all kind of go hand in hand. So we'll probably take some dips and dives and ducks and turns, but that's kind of, what is that from dodgeball? Dodge, dip, duck, dodge.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
I'm just glad this is not something that flight attendants say to us when we first get on a plane.
It's not a part of their welcoming. Like this is general welcome.
United ever throws that in. Yeah, United ever throws that into the sequence. I'm gonna have to be like, I think I'm on the wrong plane.
Please be careful of overhead items in the bin. But don't forget to dive, dodge, pass.
Yeah.
I think we found the name of this episode.
There we go. I love it.
The D.
Rolls off the tongue. It really does.
Yeah, the 5 Ds of computer science and creativity.
Well, there you go.
Even better.
If you're new to the show, you know some of. Actually, if you're not new to the show, you see some familiar faces, but we have a new face with us right below me. If you're watching, like we're like the Brady Bunch. Who is it? Who is that person? It's Brooke.
Hey.
Hi, Brooke.
I'm over here just hoping that I don't sneeze or say anything awkward. Those are the 2 goals for this recording.
That's all that's going to happen.
Fried Tech, you know who Brooke is. She keeps the train on the rails in all ways for Fried. So we're so excited to have you here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. Yay. That's believable, right? Yay.
Yay. Yeah, you're not convincing me quite yet, but we'll get into some really fun topics and we'll be having a lot of fun. All right. So what kind of got us onto this subject was talking about, I think it was Daryl, Jacqueline, and I were talking about makerspaces a little bit and how that leads into creativity in the classroom and all of that. And Daryl and I kind of realized this morning that we know the term makerspace, but like if someone said, what is that? We would be like, oh.
We'd all have different answers, yes.
Yeah, so everyone would have kind of a different answer. So Jacqueline, you used to do a lot of work with makerspaces in your like classroom life, right?
Yes, true.
Okay.
That is
so if someone said to you, what is a makerspace? What would you tell them?
Ooh, you know what? Okay. I'm going to be really annoying. And I'm going to say that a makerspace isn't a thing. It's more of a mindset. It's an Yes. We're getting philosophical up in here.
It's
all right.
You
started talking about raccoons and then you opened Pandora's box of creativity up here. No, but it really, makerspace can be so many different things. It is so many different things. Yes, there are physical makerspaces where it's intentional to that. But honestly, hot take or not, I don't know. I kind of don't love that idea of it because it's isolating. It's basically like, okay, well, here's learning. Here's where learning is going to happen. And all your creativity and your tinkering, AKA, free playtime is going to happen over here. And it kind of separates the concept of nurturing and fostering creativity in a student from the process of learning. When in reality, they are so intricately intertwined. So it's more of an approach, I think.
Okay. So like if I am learning by creating, that would essentially be a makerspace in the classroom.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of different approaches to makerspace, and having a set task, sometimes that helps. Having kind of a guided project is helpful, especially when you've got those kids or even teachers that aren't really used to getting out and, pulling a Miss Frizzle, making mistakes, getting their hands dirty, all that stuff. It's uncomfortable for them. They don't want to mess up. They don't want to waste time. They don't have time to waste, honestly. So having a specific goal, kind of like you were saying, learning by creating. So they could say, okay, we'll create, like for Earth Day, at one point we did to repurpose something that you would normally not be able to recycle. So we had a kind of parameters, we had a goal, we had materials, and then they were able to take that and run with it. And it is about like the problem solving, the thinking outside the box, and kind of flexing those little baby soft skills muscles.
Mm-hmm. And what grade were you teaching? Remind me.
This was in 5th, but
Okay.
I had taught 3rd and 2nd as well.
Got it. Cool. So like, I feel like an important part would be approaching it with here's the problem and not necessarily here's your solution.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. There was a lot of, if there was a problem, I'll solve it. Was I using that as an excuse to dress up as Vanilla Ice one year? Yes. Maybe 2 years. Yes, that did happen. However, we did have an intended goal of here's our issue. How can we solve that using creativity and creation as opposed to regurgitation? Because that is so often in classrooms. It's like they take it, they spit it back out. Okay, good. You get your gold star, move on to the next. As opposed to really making it their own and then putting out something with like their brand on it,
Yeah, for sure. And Brooke, you were at Adobe MAX recently.
Hot
Yes,
off the
it was.
press.
Hot off the Max.
Hot off from Max, yeah. Which is
And
like,
I know they talk a lot about like just the importance of creativity in the classrooms, kind of what Jacqueline was saying. And what are some things that you heard, I guess, at Max this year that really stuck with you?
well, I feel like I have like a miniature soapbox to get on here with this for a second because
Go girl.
I'm a creative person, and growing up in my generation, I won't say what generation age that actually is, but in my generation, we heard our whole lives, like if you want to be a photographer or an artist or a painter, you were going to starve. Like, not everybody can be Vincent van Gogh, right? Like we heard that growing up, that field wasn't as developed as it is now. And so as a creative person, when I was younger, I was like, well, my artistic ability is bleh. But if you want to give me some stuff, I will put it together and make it beautiful for you. But honestly, like that area just did not overly exist yet. You still had to be really good at one of those artistic functions in order to have a career, and they were limited. Whereas now, like being at Max and being in a room where there's 10,000 people who are living the dream, right? Like they're illustrators, they do video, they're photographers, and they're not quote unquote famous, right? Like you don't have to be, this job exists for everybody. So it's like, what are we doing in education to change that narrative for students? Because how long was that the narrative that now students truly have the ability? You can be like, man, that doodle is so cool. Let me show you another program you can do that in. And maybe you can make that doodle come to life. And then like, you know what I mean? It's just, are we as educators continuing to change that narrative to tell students like these jobs do exist and you can be an illustrator and a photographer and a videographer? Like these things do exist and you can do them anywhere. I met a young lady at Max who she works for Disney, and her job is to do the holiday promotionals. And so like her and her team illustrate all of the holiday promotional packaging just at Disney. And I'm like, what a job. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have a whole team of people who just create holiday promotional stuff. And so it's interesting to be in that space as someone who's in like out of the classroom as an educator. y'all, I barely belong there. Like, I'm just there to listen and tell everybody this is so great. And we love working with Adobe, and I love training teachers on Adobe Express. But speaking to to those people who are there and asking them, like, what do you do for a living, has been so interesting to me to see all these little nuanced pockets where now creativity exists as a
Mhm.
job field that didn't exist before, thanks to technology.
Mhm.
And I think I'm wrapping back around to what you were talking about finally. But I think that it's important that educators give students the opportunity to be creative. And it doesn't mean like, okay, Monday and Tuesday we're going to do this, and on Wednesday we're creative. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like what Jacqueline was saying about it being a mindset. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Like with Adobe
Mhm.
Express, that tool specifically, I can have my students create any type of image to just talk about what they just learned or what takeaways they had. 10 minutes. I can give them 10 minutes. That's the same amount of time I would have given them to create something else to show me their learning. But
Or
they're
to like set
getting,
up a quiz for them or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
right. It's the same as a formative assessment. Make me an infographic to express what you learned today, or an image of any type, or a chart, or like, it's mind blowing to see where we can change. Teachers just have to be willing to open the door and let it in, and
Hmm.
let students show them. Like, there's no wrong answer when it comes to creating.
Ooh, I love that.
I love that too. And I remember like, so I taught digital arts and computer science for 6th through 8th graders. And I do feel like my class was treated as like, okay, well, here is where you can make stuff and here is where you can be creative. But that type of demonstration of knowledge can really happen in English and
Yeah.
math and
Mhm.
science, and like pulling all that together. Because I think about those jobs that you're talking about, right, Brooke, like the photographer or illustrator or designer, all of that stuff. Those jobs aren't only in this
Right.
industry where you're at Disney or
Right.
working, like or like
Yeah.
some hoity-toity marketing firm or something like that. Every single industry has creative professionals working
Yep.
within it, especially now because people are seeing the importance for visual communication, or for even communicating with video and social media and TikTok, all of those things. That's content creation, no matter what you're talking about. And that
Yeah.
Yeah.
now I'm on my soapbox, but that creativity is so important in every single place. There's not one industry that's like, "Meh, we don't really need creativity. Thank you so much.
Right.
Find another place." Like that just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
teachers a lot of times, especially when we're doing professional development for them for some of our creative tools, they're like, "Yeah, I'm just not a graphic designer, though," and I'm like, "I'm not either. Like, I didn't go
Yeah.
to school for that. It's a skill that I have created over time, and I have a certain look or brand. And here at Fried, everybody does their own creative work, and it's fun over time of us working together. I'll be like, oh, Lauren made this. Oh, this is
Yeah.
definitely Alicia. Oh, this is Brooke. Oh, this is Chantel. Like, you do develop a brand in your own creativity,
Mhm.
where, and like I said earlier, there's no wrong way to be creative. And when you talk to teachers and they're like, but I'm just not, I'm like, yeah, you are creative, but you know what, you probably never took a course in poster making, but you have felt like you could grade students on their posters, but like, you don't
Yeah.
have a degree in that. So it's like the same things go for digital graphics, and giving those students that time to be creative in it. It's just give them the time, let them explore, and just stand back and be amazed at what
Yeah.
they produce. It's probably going to be better than anything you could have ever imagined.
And I did go to art school. Like I did,
You
I did
did.
major in graphic design. And I can tell every single person who's listening, like, it's not like you show up to class and they're like, this is how you resize text. And this is the font that you want to use. And this is the font that you don't want to use. You actually figure that out over time. What you're doing in these, so let's pretend everyone is a design major and not a educator or whatever. What you would learn is really like how to come up with great ideas, how to eliminate bad ones, how to use the design thinking process to solve a problem. So back to that makerspace where like you're giving kids actual problem to solve rather than here's the solution. How are you going to make it look nice? Like that's so different than the type of thinking that's actually taught when people go to design school. They're not, I mean, I can't speak for every single school out there, but you're not learning rules all day, every day, maybe a little bit at the very beginning, but the rest is very conceptual of like, how are you going to be creative within these certain constraints? And that has helped me. That type of thinking has helped me in every single job that I've had. And I've had a lot of weird ones. And it all comes back to like those skills have actually helped me excel more than anything else that I have.
Yeah.
So.
Brooke, you said first of all, for everyone listening, Brooke is discounting her skills when she was like, oh, I don't belong there. She belonged there. She's very, very creative, and she 100% yes. And you said something about like making posters and things. And that's something, when I hear creativity, for the longest time, I thought, well, I'm not very creative. I can barely draw a stick figure. And that's even questionable. I'm not good with things like that. And I'm still not, spoiler alert. But I was able to kind of recognize that creativity looks different to different people based off what their skills are. So I might suck at all the things that y'all are good at, but I do have my own creativity in other ways. And I had to really.
Right. You just talked about dressing up like Vanilla Ice. Like that's creativity.
Like, I am genuinely confused where I'm like, is that not a thought that pops into everybody's head when you're teaching stuff like that?
Definitely not. No.
Oh, I mean, no, me either. I was like, well, I guess so. But it is something that looks different. And you also said that you had this mindset of these professions won't make money. And that's definitely universal. We've heard that starving artists, so you won't, it's like a bachelor's in, what is it? Like philosophy. You're not going to do anything with it. That's kind of very well established. But then you said that things are changing, and I'm so interested to see how that mindset, I guess, affects teachers. And if a teacher, which is really who our audience is right now, if maybe take a second to kind of get curious about your own mindset. If you have that mindset of, well, yeah, sure, they like to draw, but like, really, what's that going to do? Maybe just be aware of that and see, does that impact how you teach, how you set up creativity, things like that? Because yes, there are jobs now, like Brooke was saying, that are being created that didn't exist, and that will continue. That pattern will continue. And then Lauren, you said something about the content creation. And this generation, I guess mine, where I think, oh, they're a content creator. There's a little bit of an eye roll, but that is the same that the other generation had of these jobs,
right?
And so I need to be aware of that. And now they're out there, and you're exactly right. There is not a field where you're not creating some sort of a content, even whether it's a flyer or commercial, social media, whatever.
Your brand,
Yeah, it's like a perception on our part as educators.
Yeah. I think it's because anyone can call themselves a content creator. And with photographers and illustrators and designers, for the most part, are saying, I went to school for this, and I have this piece of paper, look at it, it says that I'm good at this. I think that's where the eye roll for content creators come through. But really, they're using the same skills, and if they're good at it, they're running their own little small business.
You're right. When I think about that, just thinking about like what we talking about, like content creators, just yesterday, Instagram loves to like suggest people for you.
Yeah.
And there was this guy, and he was like, young guy, watch how I take this piece of fabric and turn it into a piece of art. Okay, I'm in. Like, I'm ready. I'm watching the video.
Yeah.
And he makes this like cow head looking thing on a man's body with this fabric. It's fascinating. Well, then I go to his page, and it turns out like that's his brand. That's the image he puts on every piece of art that he has. And he has like over 100,000 followers, and he's a young artist. But I was like, he's done such a good job curating his art process to get followers, that's which then going to make people purchase it, correct? And so you think about this, like our creative processing with our students, like what makes you want that one little thing that everybody else doesn't maybe have, right? Like, where are you finding that brand and making that happen? And I think about that a lot. I follow people all the time that I'm like, I don't know why I'm following this, but I'm watching it. I'm here for this. Whether it's literally I also watched someone make a snowman on the inside of a cup using frosting and then poured a milkshake in it for a kid yesterday. I was just enthralled by that content as I was this guy making this cow man, like it doesn't matter what that creativity looks like anymore. One minute it can look one way and the next minute it can look like something else, but you can still be just as bought in on what that is. And I think that that's what's important with our students is I have a learning goal, but for a really long time, I had a limited set of resources to show me maybe what that learning goal looks like. I feel like in the classroom, that's no longer the problem. You don't have this limited set of resources. So what if a student uses Adobe Express? What if student B uses a poster board? What if student C created a song lyric and recorded it in SoundCloud and sent you the SoundCloud? Like, where do we as educators now feel like we're grading for the learning outcome, not necessarily the production? We want them to do the learning. So we no longer have to say, this is the only set of Chanel piping I have. Like, and we have to make this last for the whole year. Like, we have all these digital resources. Are we giving kids the opportunity to showcase that learning with the tool of their choice, as long as the learning goal is resembled? So that's just my thought process on that.
Yes. And I am going to climb up on that soapbox with you, because I also, same as you know, I feel so strongly about this. You're so right. Everything that you've said, the aspect of what are we actually measuring? Because in so many situations, it's not learning. You're not measuring the learning. You're measuring compliance. You're measuring how much of my specific step-by-step instructions are these students following. And if they're not following all of them, then there are points deducted. And there is a time and a place for instructions and safety and purpose and in all that. But even that mindset of being able to look at something and evaluate its purpose takes a level of creativity that we're not giving students a chance to even foster. And so, the process of it, if they can look at things and get to it in different ways that are authentic to them, you're also going to get a more true idea of where they are in the learning process. If you're doing it in the way that you described.
Yeah.
I remember trying to figure out how he can be creative with pickleball. That's what his thinking face is up there in the corner. Like, he's like, how can I get pickleball in this conversation with creativity?
I do have a name for a pickleball Instagram social media channel. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Despicable Me.
What?
Like, I got it. I got it.
Wait, say it again.
Despicable Me.
Love.
Don't steal it, y'all.
No,
I haven't made it yet.
Make it.
I better make it now.
Make it after this.
No, I better make it now.
Viral podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Daryl.
We have 9 listeners, Daryl.
Oh goodness.
Hi, Mom.
I told my friends about that one, and they weren't as excited as you all. So
I liked it. See, that was creative.
I guess
that was so good, Daryl.
Yeah.
No, you need to create an account, a new account on Instagram. You can use your same old email before this comes out, because someone's going to snatch
this episode's never coming out. I'm just kidding.
It's so good.
He's just going to cut this out.
If it's available.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to shift a little bit. This pickleball me was a perfect little pivot point for it. So we were talking about jobs in creativity, or like jobs in making things, and how the idea is that you're going to be this like starving artist, and you're really going to just have to get scrappy if you want to make a living out of it. The other side of this is, I feel like the area of computer science, robotics, stuff like that, where people are saying like, do you want to make a lot of money someday? Because you should go into this field. And then these kids get into this class, and if they feel just an ounce of lost, or I didn't follow every single step, I'm missing a semicolon or whatever, they're done and they're out. And that was the struggle that I had a lot. Like, you actually can be incredibly creative in this space. It's you are expressing yourself in a way that is brand new to the world, kind of, right? At least brand new to being in schools and being taught as like an actual course and subject. It certainly wasn't offered when I was in school. And like, I'm not that old. Okay. So like, how do
Nobody asked Lauren her age.
I'm 22.
Younger than all of us.
And we're rolling with it.
I
Keep rolling.
Rounding down.
so much in my career in 6 months after graduating college.
Oh.
So how can educators or us as friEd, who knows, take this idea of like, oh my gosh, everyone loves this. Don't we wish we could all be creative all day long, and mix that with the space of computer science that needs creative professionals and needs mindsets and viewpoints of people who are not represented very well in that field. And how can teachers kind of combine that in a really magical way in their school? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer, but I do think AI is going to push people more into that field. I saw a video recently, and I know I just said the scary letters AI, you know, like, but I personally am obsessed with it and want to use it anywhere I can. It makes my life easier. But I do think that I watched a video where it showed, and you know, it's one of those videos where it can go one way or the other. One way the video showed that like even our farmers can have tractors that will be coded to run by themselves and all this stuff, right? And how you go into like some of the fast food restaurants and there's now a kiosk to order instead of a person to talk to. And there's one side of that that's like, oh my gosh, it's replacing humans. And then it's like, no, the human now has a different job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that robotics and that computer science comes into. Like those machines have to be programmed and someone has to know how to fix them and work them and how to create them and how to make them better and faster. And to me, that's kind of where I see the job shift that's going to be. I personally would rather order on the kiosk because I'm going to put in all of my little like, know this, da 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 da, right? Like, and it's going to happen. And hopefully the person in the back is going to make it correctly and everything's going to be great. But who is maintaining those computers and who's maintaining the software that's in them or updating the pictures that are in there or how it flows or how it functions?
Who's designing the interface so that you know what to click and how to adjust your order in a way that doesn't feel confusing? Right?
Exactly. Like short menus, quick bestsellers, that sort of thing. Like, and I'm just using this one obviously as an example, but I think that's where we're going to shift, do our mind shift there is maybe those classic golden book jobs. You know, y'all remember those books when we were little, the little golden book that was like, do you want to be a fireman? Do you want to be a teacher? Like jobs are changing. Yeah. Jobs are changing. Like those professions are changing. It's now we've got to tell our students, like, think beyond what you see and what you've read about. Like I'm currently in a position that didn't exist when I went into school for teaching. I mean, professional development was there, but not necessarily doing Google the way we do Google, right? Like Google's
or
25
even the
years
tools
old.
that we're training teachers how to use were not in existence either, you know.
Right. We're having to learn what AI can do as well and what AI looks like in education. There's not a manual out there that just was released. Like we're all learning it together and navigating those waters together. But nothing has ever stopped change. Nothing. No act of Congress, no year, nothing stops change. So you just have to decide, are you in it and are you going to change with it? Or are we going to continue to resist?
Or are we going to wave goodbye to you on the way?
Right. Yeah.
Fun in the last decade. And also AI can be kind of scary and intimidating, which we do have some amazing content and courses coming out for that. So be on the lookout that are going to just knock your little AI socks off. However, that's a plug. However, that was what calculators were. That those got rid of a human aspect. Telephones, that got rid of a human aspect. So many of these things
The chalkboard.
did literally, yes, though. So many things got rid of human aspects of our world. And it didn't, oh, well, we don't need, the robots are taking over. Now that we have a calculator out, it now adjusted. Like you were saying, Brooke, we adjusted and now we have taken that and built upon it because of what humans are capable when it comes to creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment that we're going to have to do, but it's a good adjustment, I think. I mean, like the when the internet came out, we were all scared, like, oh, we can find everything out there. But the thing about AI is, compared to the internet, it took time for people to get into the internet and actually know how to use. Whereas AI, it's there, and we have Generation Alpha who know more than we do, and they already have access to it. So teachers, we got to get on it and understand how to use it before they do. Actually, kids knew about AI before teachers did, so they're probably angry now. Say, oh, now my teacher's on to me because I'm using AI to do my homework and stuff. But
it's so true. Like our kindergartners, or even your daughter who is so young, like they're never going to grow up in a world without it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is their common reality. Like that's something I say to teachers all the time. It's like, think of the youngest person that phone that they have in their hand that their parent hands them or whatever. That's their 8-track. That's the oldest. That's the oldest device. It's the newest device to me on the market. Like, oh, yay, Pixel 8 or whatever. Like, this is my brand new device. Well, if I hand that to a young person and it's the one that they learn, that's their oldest device they're ever going to know. And that's a crazy thought process.
Daryl's like, if you're just listening and not watching, Daryl's mind is blown.
I got a Pixel 8 coming in tomorrow.
Are you gonna be all right?
Oh, you're gonna love it. I'm just saying.
He's starting to sweat.
Team Pixel over here. So.
Yeah, my 2-year-old has started interacting with Siri, so that's been a thing. Because I'll say like, "Hey Siri, set a timer for this. Hey Siri, remind me this." And now I'll hear it. Hi Siri, and then but I kind of giggle and laugh and stuff, but that's what I used to play on the phone. When I would see my mom or whatever, playing, I would, oh, hello, hi. And that's what's happening.
That's their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to what Lauren asked.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel like nervous by that. I don't think.
No, no, but that's why we've got to tell students they have to understand computer science and robotics. They can't just be proficient with using the technologies that's in front of them. They have to learn how to interact with it and how to actually produce on it. Because so often, like growing up, when I got a computer, it was a hand-me-down from my dad's employer, our first couple computers, and I knew nothing about them. But when it would stop working, there was no like, this thing's not working. Can someone go to the store and buy me a new one? You know what I mean? Like, what's the warranty plan on this? Like, it was like, wasn't making that noise yesterday, but now it's making a noise. Let me go find the screwdriver and see what happens. Like but now I feel like our students, we've got Chromebook squads on campus. They take their computers, they get fixed, their phone's not working. We go to AT&T, we get a new phone. But it's like they have to learn how to interact with some of it in order to be able, because this is where we're going. We've got to be able to maybe not fix it. What you did not hear me say was that we all need to learn how to repair computers. I'm just saying, like, we have to understand how to interact with them more than just as a user, right? In order to understand the world that's changing around us.
It's when I used to tell, go ahead, Jacqueline. Go ahead. So when I was teaching, every single kid was required to take computer science in middle school, which was awesome because a lot of them discovered they were good at something when they probably wouldn't have elected that class, right? It was the most hilarious thing calling it an electives course when it's like, no, it's a mandatory
elective.
There were some kids that just fought it hard, right? Of like, I'm never gonna need to know how any of this stuff works. And it's like, well, yeah, you may never need to know HTML or CSS, JavaScript, any of those languages. You may never need to know. But no matter what industry you wind up in someday, you're going to need to communicate with somebody who does know how that works. At some point, you will have to communicate and explain your ideas to someone else who is able to use their knowledge to create whatever you're asking for or to fix whatever you're asking to be fixed, right? And if you don't have some kind of working knowledge of like, okay, A plus B equals C in some sense, then you're going to be pretty lost, right? And someone who does have an idea of how these things work is actually going to probably outperform you or at least outshine you in that position because they can at least speak the language. So that's what I would always tell kids too, is like, no, you don't have to be this when you grow up, but like some kind of working knowledge is only going to benefit you.
Yeah, I think there's like a new school level of thought that computational thinking is only about coding and programming. Remember we did a session a year ago where the steps for computational thinking, it's like the algorithmic thinking, the pattern recognition, the decomposition really ties into design thinking. It's
it feels like kind of the same thing sometimes.
The same thing. I mean, whenever you have kids going through and they're breaking down a problem during project-based learning, they're similar to computational thinking. They're breaking down the problem, figuring out steps on how to solve that problem, and making it happen so other people can replicate the solution. And what the beauty about AI too, because kids, they don't want to learn how to code. I don't want to learn how to code. I think it's too late for me to learn how to code. I try to dabble in it, but I took a year Python class.
I'm here to tell you, all it is like YouTubing things every now and then figuring it out.
And then figuring it out from there, like just copying. Yeah, just trial and error, right? Just trial and error.
But I have built an add-on that works.
That's true.
You have.
The AI though, I don't know. I'm using Chat GPT. It's like, it's almost like you're being a coder but not knowing how to code because you're telling it to do things for you, and if you don't get it right the first time, you ask it to do it again, it's going to do it again for you, and it's you still fixing the prompt to get what you want, which is a form of creative thinking. Yeah, debugging something. That's the word.
Yeah,
that's debugging. So true. Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that. And all the things that you're both describing, it's not about the skill of coding. It's not about knowing what goes where and all that. It is about the soft skills that are going to be required in order to do those things. You need to be able to look at large chunks of information and come up with a game plan, whether that is tasks at work or coding or you're building or designing, whatever. You need to be able to have a plan. You need to be able to have grit to do one thing at a time. You need to be able like to kind of pick yourself up when you mess up and move forward. All of these things are skills that's something that the things you were talking about, Lauren, really does hone. And those are the skills that, regardless of if the tool changes, you're going to need those skills. Again, like the people who are creating the calculator, when people are trying to use that and stuff, they need to have the skills of, okay, well, this isn't going to work. Let me try something different. Or this is, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I thought they built the calculator for us to turn it upside down and see what it says. Is that not what the purpose of the calculator was?
That was the epitome of junior high. Yeah.
Boobless. Remember that one?
Right. I love it.
I said it.
I'm glad you did. That's what we were all getting.
We always did boobies, not boobies.
Yeah, that's
it was that Dolly Parton one, right? Story, and then they punch in numbers. Dolly Parton goes to the store, do this, and then she goes out of the store.
Story of
creativity is
child.
Everywhere.
See, I think it's the same story for everybody.
Nobody cut that part out.
How did that spread? The internet didn't exist. It's like by word of mouth from student to student.
Yeah, you're
just
right.
like that S. Remember that S?
How did that wind up?
Oh my gosh. Boy, now I'm mind blown because you said that S. 6 straight lines.
Yes.
Connected. Like
yes.
Or MASH. Remember MASH?
Yes.
How did that spread?
Art, storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean,
because children moved around the United States, and
that's how
the United States.
I want to know who was the first to draw the S.
The S.
You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
where does it come from?
But we all did it. We all drew the S. I know.
You know what's so cool is that people will post these polls. They'll say things and they'll post polls of like, hey, did you know that this was a thing? Brooke, I think it was you that posted the Kentucky chicken thing of the states, you know?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay. So she just posted a map of the United States. And basically it's like, hey, if you ever don't know where Kentucky is, look, and it's like the Kentucky, a guy, and he's like holding chicken. And
Well, yeah, like Minnesota's the chef hat.
Yeah.
Iowa is the face, right? Something
You're
like
never,
that.
now that I've seen it, I'm never ever going to, I mean, I
You're
know
not
the word
gonna not see
Kentucky
it.
is forever.
But
Like,
people will post things like that. I've seen things, different content creators will post stuff,
you're
and then they'll
right.
sometimes, I guess, their DMs will be flooded of, what is this? Or, oh my gosh, I've never seen this, versus, oh, I loved that as a kid. And then they'll post polls like, hey, I'm curious, did you guys do this growing up? And it will be pretty split, that not everybody had those same experiences. Not everybody
right.
knew little tricks like that. So what the internet now does is it takes these little things that people would do, like MASH or the S, and it gives it a platform so that more people, it really has a more universal platform.
Yeah.
And now we can all make cool creative S's and things like that.
That's
Yeah.
so true. And speaking back to like talking about being at Max with Adobe, everything at Adobe Max this year was about AI and the AI that's coming to the Adobe. That was a good word. The Adobe Creative Cloud process. And what is great about the way they are managing the AI is letting illustrators and creators know we are leveraging what you're already creating. We want to make things easier for you. We're not taking away the human aspect. And I think that's really important. Like, we wouldn't have this material if we didn't already have the creations you've made. But how awesome is it that I can go in right now into Adobe Firefly or Express, text to image. And if my teacher has asked me to like really say what I'm thinking, I can be like, what I'm really thinking about is a pink dinosaur wearing headphones with roller skates with rainbow wings with pixie dust around it, also holding an ice cream cone. In a matter of a second, it appears.
Wow.
And you can really see that, and it's all generated and it's all there. Or like text effects, for example. Like, if I'm talking about if a student's like, I'm trying to get them to understand the word copper. Well,
Right.
I cannot find a penny because I only carry my credit card on the back of my phone and don't even know where a wallet is that has pennies or whatever. Pennies are made from copper, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I'm rolling with
They
it.
used to.
Can somebody can we get someone to fact check that before it goes out?
They used to.
We'll get our fact checking.
Like a
team.
1937 penny, maybe.
There we go. So like, but if I want them to understand that, like in Express, I can literally open it up and do text effects and type the word copper and then literally put in there, I want the word copper to look like copper. And the students can, matter of seconds, can actually see what that copper looks like. Can they hold it? No. But like,
Can they smell it?
It's a good way to utilize that generative AI that's giving us fast results from all of the knowledge that it has, where we don't have to go, okay, let me go find it. Oh, I like that dinosaur. Okay, that dinosaur will work. Let me bring it over here. Okay, now I'm gonna have to spend an hour coloring it. Oh, okay. Well, I really wish it was wearing roller skates. Let me awkwardly clip art some roller skates on top of this. Or no, obviously I'm giving a really creative, like, I don't know what you'd be using that for. But if you were using an activity where you wanted your students, like, you're in charge, we're going to do the life of Abraham Lincoln. And this group is in charge of showing what he would do from 8 a.m. to noon. Well, you're not going to be able to internet search that. But using Gen AI, what you do know about Abraham Lincoln and the time he grew up in, what might he do? He might be out in the fields working in the morning. Might be what he eats for breakfast. They could type that into Adobe and make those images appear just as if they were there by using the actual description. And then we could, by the end of the day, have an Instagram account full of the life of Abraham Lincoln throughout the day.
Wow.
So
Now that's a fun assignment about
So
everything.
you're not removing rigor. You're not removing creativity. They still
or the research.
They still need to demonstrate their knowledge. And I found as a teacher, like most of the opt-out happened when a task felt too tedious or too hard. Not because they didn't know what they were talking about or couldn't explain a concept. It really was just that the point from A to B was too long, right? And so now it's kind of getting shortened with AI.
And is it enjoyable? I mean, honestly, fun is a big part of motivation. Enjoyment is a part of motivation. And if you're completing something like you're writing a paper on Abraham Lincoln or you're completing a worksheet, you can do it. Again, you can regurgitate, but how much is there going to be, like, what personal aspect is going to be assigned to that? Because it is just regurgitation. But if you have that opportunity to create and envision and use the information that you have, you're going to have a more personal experience learning wise, and it's just going to be more fun too.
And Brooke, I was thinking on the teacher end that the question that you just posed about the Abraham Lincoln scenario, like, did you come up with that, or you could probably have AI come up with a prompt for you,
Right.
create an assignment
Yeah.
like that?
You definitely could. Yeah. Ask.
That's
We
a pretty
call it
clever
Chet
prompt. I
instead
like
of
it.
Chat GPT, but
Chet.
yeah, Chet's our friend. Yeah, I agree. Kind of to pull in what we were talking about with creativity and the computer science that you were talking about, Lauren. At Max, they have a sneaks program where it shows you like the projects, the top projects that may be coming up or that you may be seeing out in the wild soon. And
Cool.
the one that I definitely got the biggest oohs and ahs, it's also the one that I've seen all over clips of it all over the internet post Adobe Max, was Project Primrose. And
Ooh.
Okay.
that team has created a dress. So if you guys haven't seen this, look it up.
Oh, yes, I saw it
Project
all
Primrose.
over Instagram.
Yes, it was over
Yes.
everywhere. The young lady has basically coded a wearable. She sewed it together, this dress, and she's able to, with this button, a little button on the dress, change the whole design of the front of it. And then she can also make it where she clicks a button, she just moves like to the left or the right, and the movement moves with her and changes. So
Oh, wow.
you definitely are not showing up to the party looking like anybody else if you
Yeah.
could just change it that quick. And so to me, it's like, that's really truly marrying those two ideas together. Like, what are we going to be doing with computer science and robotics, as well as just creativity in general? That could change the
that's
face
really
of the
cool.
fashion world.
Yeah.
Depends on,
Oh,
yeah, but Project Primrose, there was also some really cool other sneaks that have a lot to do with the AI as well. Like, there was some that like, but probably one of the most fascinating for me was there was a person who they took a picture and it was like four people standing in a row. And of course, somebody was barely standing in front of the other person, but just like, oh, but this guy looks really good. And he wishes that this was his headshot and da da da. And they were able to remove the person in front of him, and AI finished filling in his face and finished his shoulder. And it's like, it's
That would have taken somebody
crazy.
2
You
hours to do
wouldn't.
it.
You would
yeah.
just be like,
Yeah.
put that shirt back on and I hope you look good. Like, and
Yeah.
we'll take your picture, like it's really crazy the time saving that's going to be in it, so that people, it doesn't matter how creative you are, you're going to get that time back, but you still have to have your brain power to know what you want it to do. Human plus AI is always going to be greater than just AI.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. So I think, like, this episode will probably come out likely just before Computer Science Education Week. And I think if you're a teacher, this would be a phenomenal opportunity to find ways to pull that creative aspect that students are going to be energized by into the world of computer science. There's so many places that you can look for that online. I always used code.org, was like one of my favorites, but Adobe Express too, like Brooke was talking about, and using AI to create something really, really cool. And then talking about the work of a computer versus the work of a human, and how that kind of, it's necessary for both to come together that way, would be a really cool opportunity for this week to focus on computer science. Because I think you're going to get some people that normally would say, no, I'm not good at that, or I don't think I would be good at that, to realize that they actually do have a lot of those critical creative design thinking skills already, and that they would be great at that. So,
and also, if you're unsure of what steps to take or which direction to go, and even if you're not, tell the students, hey, here are the platforms, here are some things we could possibly do, and let them come up with the ideas. Students are so creative when given the chance.
So creative.
So, untapped resource.
Yeah,
I
and talk
would
about
say-
being bought into your own idea, right?
I would say I can think of 4 or 5 projects when I was in the classroom that the ones that I let go of are the ones that always were the best. Like, where I gave them the parameters to some degree, but it was completely up to the students what they produced, made, put together. They're the ones that I can think back today where I feel the best about being a teacher. I'm like, let me show you. But it's because I didn't hold the rein too tight or say like, no, this is what you've got to get done in this amount of time. And it's like, you have to give them a little bit of a chance to learn what their own capabilities are, because
And
they
to mess
may
up.
not know. Yeah, they may mess up. They may say, I never want to do this again. And that might be okay. Like
Mhm.
some people are good at things and some people aren't. And that's how you learn. And that's also how we get them more prepared for picking what job field they're going to be, or when they go to college.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell you, I mean, even my personal experience right now, like with my niece, like going to college thinking, oh, this is what I want to do. And it's like, wait, maybe it's not, maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
how many people that's their story. Like they only had this little world, and then they get in college and it's a bigger world, and they have to figure out where they belong in it.
And that
Totally.
is something, one last little human-y plug, that is something that is modeled by teachers. So if you're a teacher and you're listening and you're trying this stuff, if you have unrealistic expectations for yourself, if you get mad at yourself in front of your students, if you have this pressure, they pick up on that. So when you tell them, oh, it's okay, mistakes happen, but then you're like, stupid idiot to yourself, they notice that. So modeling that grace with yourself, modeling that growth mindset, they will hear what you are saying to them, but they are watching how you talk, how you interact with your own mistakes. So be cognizant of that.
Alrighty, Fried fans, thank you all for listening to episode 3. We don't have a title for this episode yet, but you'll see it. It'll be on the top of the YouTube page. But thank you all for watching or listening. We hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye everyone.